In this interview, I interview wedding photographer Erin of Boston. Hey everybody, welcome to Dan Bullman Photography. So I know a lot of photographers are interested in starting a wedding photography business or trying to get out of their full-time job by going into something like wedding photography. So I decided to interview Erin of Boston, who is somebody who's done exactly that. Now, Erin used to work for the Apple store here in Boston, but about a year and a half ago, she started her own business as a full-time wedding photographer. So we dive into how she did it and some of her tips and strategies for how you can do the same thing and create a successful wedding photography business. So without further ado, let's dive into the interview. Welcome to the Portrait Fam podcast. Tonight I have a good friend of mine, Erin of Boston. She's a photographer here in Boston, as you might guess from the handle. So Erin, for those of you in the audience who might not know who you are, why don't you give just like a quick intro to who you are and some of the work that you do?
I was a hobby photographer. I picked up a camera a few years ago, I would say like 4 years ago, maybe a little longer. And I just had fun taking landscapes. And then I finally got a portrait lens, and then I fell in love with taking photos of people. Yeah. And now I'm a full-time wedding photographer. Who knew? So it can happen. It works out, and I love my job. It's great.
Yeah. So let's walk back sort of to the beginning. So when did you first pick up a camera and really like start shooting portraits or really getting into the swing of things and find it is something that you really enjoyed?
Well, I was working at Apple, and I find that a lot of us that work there, we have like it's almost like an outlet, like a creative outlet. And because we're all tech savvy and we can use a computer well, and we can use our phones well. And I found that the product that I liked was coming out of cameras. Like, I didn't like my phone shots. I didn't like, they're a little grainy, and I didn't like Instagram filters. So I started editing in Lightroom and like poking around in there and finding true colors that I really liked. And one of my really good friends, Sam Swan, plugging him, I live in my kilt on Instagram. He was very good photographer and dealt with me because I would call him and be like, what should my settings be? I don't know. And I didn't know much. And he was like, he was my big brother in photography, I would have to say. And now he's still one of my best friends, but now he reaches out to me and he's like, hey, can you put some colors in these photos for me? Which is great because he taught me everything about like technically about a camera. And now like I kind of give back to him with like helping him edit and find like his colors in certain work. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find like the networking aspect of photography like so important, like just all the little connections you make and the people that can like help you out along the way. Which I wanted to like mention to you, like I remember when we did our like YouTube tutorial, maybe like a little over a year ago with the Prism. Yeah, with the Prism. Yeah. So like that was one of the first times I did like a tutorial with another photographer. Like I'd done a couple with people who like I just knew through like Portrait Meet, but that was the first time I feel like people kind of recognized me for it, or like people kind of like were like, oh, you work with Erin of Boston, that's cool. And that kind of like that allowed me to like expand and start working with like Oscar so cool. And like other people who like I hadn't had any sort of like real connection with before. So that was sort of like, I look back at that video and it was like, that was sort of like a springboard to doing all sorts of awesome collabs. So,
and I was such a mess that day. I was like, okay, I have 8,000 things to do, but let's go. And it was kind of cool. I remember I dressed for a blizzard because I remember, and I was dying with like a winter coat on. It was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. One of those just like random warm days.
Yeah, it was like a random warm day. So much has changed since then. So much. Like our community is booming. Everybody's killing it. Like we all still have each other's backs, which I think is great because it's more collaborative versus competition. And I love that about us. We can all reach out to each other and say, all right, what did I mess up here? Like, why don't I like this photo? Like, can you help me figure this out? And we'll have 15 people respond, and it's because they care, you know?
Yeah.
And when they respond, and there's always somebody to shoot with. You just message somebody, hey, let's go shoot. Let's like have a good time. And it's fun. Now, being a professional photographer, I have to contract and I have to really watch my time. And like really take care of my queue and my clients because they're paying me now. So it's so hard to get out there and say, okay, I have 3 engagement photo shoots to edit, but I still want to kind of hang out with this like model that I became friends with through Instagram and do some work with her because, you know, maybe they like have a different style that you want to like show on your Instagram that you haven't shot before. So it's hard to balance the hobby side of things that I still aspire to get to and be able to like be disciplined myself to get the work done for clients. So
yeah, it's a huge workload. I think like, so one of the things that I see is a lot of people when they start getting into doing photography as a hobby, maybe they're like not totally satisfied with their day job or something, and they think like, if I just become a professional photographer, then like everything will be great. Like I'll just be shooting all the time. It'll be like so much fun. Like, what are some of the like other aspects of like being a professional photographer that like maybe that type of person hasn't thought about, or maybe you didn't even think about and like have now experienced it that maybe aren't as glamorous, or something to prepare for?
Oh gosh. There's so much. We could have a whole other three interviews on that. But I would say it's the startup. It's you're rubbing pennies together to start. Like you're like, oh my God, I thought I could get by. But you're trying to, you know, literally try to get eggs and bread. You know, there's been last year, there was a time where I was like, okay, I can't afford anything, you know, and I still go through patches where my business isn't, because I'm dumping a lot of money back into my business. You know, I'm paying for like my websites now. I'm paying for higher end rentals for weddings. I have to always have a backup camera. So I always rent it. Like it's $200 to rent a camera for a weekend. And then I want to try another lens. So every wedding I'm spending, I pay out of pocket to shoot weddings.
Yeah.
So that money that is coming in from weddings, you're spending that already. Like I know I have 2 weddings coming up in July, and that's going to be $500 at the beginning of the month that I'm going to have to pay. I have to pay to go do these weddings myself. Then I have to pay my second photographers, because if you have a wedding of like 250 people, you need a second photographer there. The client definitely needs one there. They just don't know it yet. You have to coach them in that and say, hey, listen, there's a lot of people at your wedding, so you're going to want a second photographer there. So you have to pay for second, you have to pay for gas, you have to pay for your equipment. And then it's like your time after is you have to take care of those photos. You have to pay for backup solutions. You have to pay for like more than one. You can't just have those photos sitting on one external hard drive. You have to have 2, and they have to be good external hard drives. So you have to go ahead and buy 4 more external hard drives so you can fit like another 500 gigabytes of raw photos over the course of a month on, and that's another $300. So it really, really adds up. And a lot of people, they're scared to do it, but you can. You just have to hustle and be positive and get the work done. And honestly, I don't know. I don't think I'd choose another route. Although I just complained about a lot of things. But I don't think I would choose another route, because when I go into my shoots, I'm nervous and I get anxious. And I think we all do. We're like, oh God, I hope this comes out well. I hope that like the sun's out at this time, and that they're not wearing like fluorescent green, or you know, you really want them to show up like you just don't know how it's going to go. And then you leave the shoot or the wedding or whatever it is, and you have like that natural high. Like it always goes well. So, and that's the best part about it. And then you go home and you upload the photos and you're like, I love these so much. And you're going through them and you edit, and it's all worth it in the long run, you know? So I can't wait until the day where I can afford to buy an extra camera and the lenses that I want, so I don't have to keep driving all the way to borrow lenses in Waltham every Friday and Monday.
Exactly.
Every summer, all through the summer. A few weeks ago, I was like, every single Friday I have to drive all the way to Waltham to pick up my lenses, because it's cheaper to pick them up than it is to have them shipped to you.
Yeah. I've done I've had them ship it, I think, to like Color Tech or something in South Station, but even that, I mean, it was like $25 for just that, like that, and like I still had to go get it. Like, so I go to borrow lenses. They're in Waltham, but I go there on Fridays. I leave at like 10 a.m. on Friday morning. I usually take my Fridays before like big wedding weekends or big shoot weekends at all, and I drive there, pick up the gear I need, and then I drive back. And then I live in Winthrop by the airport, so it's probably about, as long as I don't leave during traffic time, it's probably about half hour, 40 minutes. Yeah.
And then on Mondays, which are like the days that all your clients from the weekend are messaging you, and then all the other clients from the previous week are like following up on a Monday, you know, which is totally normal for them to do. You're driving to and back, and you can't text them back, and then everybody thinks you're ignoring them, and you're not. And you're like, it's probably the most stressful part of my weeks being a photographer is that Monday when I'm driving back from borrow lenses.
Yeah. All the clients are hitting you up from the past weekend.
You're like, hey, I love you too, man, but like I can't talk about that photo of your grandmother that you want really bad right now because I'm on my way back from borrow lenses. I haven't even showered today. I still have to eat, you know, like. And also, when you shoot that much in the weekends, your body hurts.
Yeah.
It feels like you ran a marathon. So I always kind of say I try to take Mondays off, but you can't.
Yeah.
I try to like lay in bed a little. I try to sleep in on Mondays and just like maybe do emails from bed on Monday mornings, but it never works out that way.
Yeah, you still have to hustle.
You still have to hustle. You're working all the time. There's really no downtime. A lot of people think it's glamorous. You're like, oh, wow. Oh, great. My sister just messaged me. All right. Thank you. So, basically, what were we talking about? She just kind of.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask another question actually. So, in terms of getting clients, like I wanted to take a step back. So when you first were getting started out and you were still working at Apple, like when did you start taking on clients, and like what were some of the things you were doing to kind of get yourself out there and get clients when you were just doing this on the side?
So I would just post. I would post something and then somebody would DM me. Somebody would DM me and say, hey, I'd really love to work with you. And my big rule that I before, when I was just doing it for fun, I kind of got overwhelmed with the amount of work I was doing. And I was like, wow, this is actually work, you know? And it takes a lot of time for me to sit down and edit when I could be, you know, spending some time with my niece or nephew or my sister or my mom. And I decided that it was time to start charging, you know? So if they reached out to me, I would send them my rates. If I reached out to them, it was free. So if I was looking for like a certain look, like if I said, oh, I really want to style a shoot and this person that has like this awesome sense of style that I'm looking to shoot, maybe I could reach out to them and it would be free, you know? So it would be a styled shoot, and then that would be a free shoot. And then I would get that workout because that's the type of clientele I would want to attract for my style in particular. And then I got HoneyBook, which is the software platform that I use. And I don't know what it is. As soon as I got HoneyBook, I felt official. Like I felt like I could send brochures. I could send different packages. I have portrait packages. I have like elopement packages. I have engagement packages, like New England weddings, like stateside weddings, and then like international weddings. I have all these different brochures I can send out. I can accept payments through there. It really keeps everything streamlined for myself and my clients. Mm-hmm. And then when I put the contact page on my website, clients would fill that out and it would automatically go to my HoneyBook. And my HoneyBook,
that's cool.
Yeah, my HoneyBook keeps track of everybody, and they're like, "Hey, you have an inquiry. Like, you should. It's an app on my phone. You have an inquiry. You should respond to." And I say, "Oh, okay." So I read what they wrote, and then I say, "Wow, I'm available that day. Like, let's see what they're all about." And before I allow somebody to book me, we have to make sure we're the right fit. So I call them, or I talk to them like this. And I say, "What's your idea for the shoot?" Or like, "Let's try to collaborate on this." Like, make sure that their expectations are set and that mine are as well. And then I will say, "All right, sounds great." And then they choose their package, and then I send them the proposal, which kind of goes over like, "Hey, guess what? You're just licensing these images and they're not really yours." Because everybody thinks that they're like, they can like take the photos and put them on a billboard after, and that's a whole other mess. But so they hire you for the day, and it says that you're not going to take on any other clients that day, and you're going to show up, and just things like that. I've never not shown up. I've always shown up. I have like a backup plan if I have to get like my appendix removed or something, I don't know how else to describe it, but some people, you never know. Like it could be a Friday night and I could wake up and be like in severe pain and have a wedding at like 10 a.m. But I have like a couple of friends that are very good photographers that know how to shoot weddings, that don't shoot weddings, So that would pick up and just go and shoot a wedding for me. And then of course I would edit, So yeah, I would say I really felt official once I got HoneyBook. And there was like a sign up link for it. And I think I paid $200 for my first year. And I swear to God, it paid itself back immediately. And I feel so organized with it. And I feel every morning I log in, and that's what I go through. I go through client management, and I really try to make sure that I touch base with everyone, that I have my meetings are set up that way, kind of that way. Yeah. So I would say, cool. Yeah. And I get most of my clients through, I would say, Instagram. It's definitely really hard when you start out, especially in weddings, to sign up for the big wedding websites like The Knot and the Wedding Wire. It's like a car payment, and not just like any car payment. It's like you're paying for a BMW. And you might get like a ton of leads, but they're not loyal to you. They're the type of leads that are just searching for pricing, and they're not necessarily searching for whether or not you're a good match for them. So I'd rather have a bride freak out over my work on Instagram and then message me than have 15 brides message me on a daily, and then never respond to the emails I send them, So, and I'm paying $400 a month to be on The Knot. Like, sorry, I'm all set with that. And not only that, it would up my pricing. So if you think about it, a lot of sometimes my brides ask me, they say, "Why aren't you on The Knot?" And I say, "Because you would have to pay for it. Like, you're paying less than you normally would for any other wedding photographer, because I am not paying for The Knot, It's a lot of money. It's on, maybe in a few years I'll do it. I don't know. But right now I'd rather be on Instagram and just network through my own community that we've all built, Yeah. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So like at what point you're still working at Apple, you're you're taking on clients like when you can get them through Instagram, and you're sort of like booking a lot, you're keeping it all organized with HoneyBook. At what point did you sort of realize like, hey, this might be able to be my full-time thing? Like, and like, what sort of prompted you to go, okay, I'm going to take the leap. Like, I'm going to quit my job at Apple and do this full time.
So I think it's because the amount of editing that we have to do. And also when I figured out how to price. I've asked the community previously if they'd like a pricing workshop from me, because I think that that's something that I can give back to the community. You know, I have opportunities in my photography, and as we all do, and I have other opportunities in my business, but I think that pricing is probably one of my strengths. And figuring out when to, I'll go over it. I'll do a mini tutorial on pricing for everybody. Let's do it. So,
all right, let's do it.
How much do I have to make a year? Not being like greedy, and saying, how much do I have to make a year to save a little, pay my bills, live on my own as a 38-year-old woman. I'm going to be 39 on July 5th, you guys. So feel free to wish me happy birthday. I know I'm 37, but it's fine. Like, how much do I have to make? And I thought to myself, without being greedy, I would have to make $60,000 a year. And in order to do that, how many weddings could I possibly take? Or like shoots, like engagements here and there, without losing my mind.
Yeah.
So if you say 25, which is it's basically half the Saturdays in half the Saturdays on the calendar for one calendar year. That means you should be charging close to $3,000 per wedding. So if you say, okay, so that's my middle package, right? Because if you have a higher package, you have 3 packages typically for like a wedding. And it should kind of be the same way for any packages you have. You should have 3. You should have one with a little less than what they might need, or one that kind of is suffice and just gets done what they want. One that is like your average package, and then one that has the extras, like one that has the 2 hours extra and the album and the extra prints in it. So I say 25 weddings a year max at a minimum of 3,000. So you have your, like, I'm just averaging pricing. It might not be mine exactly now, because I'll go over that after. But I say, okay, so say my first wedding is a 6-hour wedding, and that's a $2,500 package. And that comes with an engagement session and doesn't come with a second shooter, right? So that's that right there. Some people will book that. And then your middle package is what you have to make a year times 20, 25, right?
Yeah.
Averaging in taxes and all that. So then you, that middle package is what most people are going to book, which is what they do. And then the third one is what some people will book. So you're kind of evening out that lower package and that higher package. And then if I'm booking too often, if I'm booking every single client that books me, I raise my pricing 10%. So across the board. So if you should not be booking every client that contacts you, essentially. So if somebody doesn't book you, you're like, okay, my pricing's right. It's kind of a positive in the way that things are. So you should probably be booking, I would say 20 to 50% of your leads, and not necessarily anything more than that, because then your pricing's wrong. If everybody's booking you, you're like, wow, I need to up my pricing. This is just not okay. So I tend to not, I hate upping it. It's like, ooh, I don't want to, but you have to know your worth, and that's knowing your worth. Knowing your worth is, are these clients booking me like one after the other? And if they are, then I need to up my pricing, because it's just not right. That's when you know where you're supposed to be. And that's where I am right now. Now I'm at the point where I'm like, I think there's like a lull in the market right now in June, where people for next 2019, I have some booked for 2019, where they're not ready to book you, and they're not necessarily like looking at other photographers, but they're just not ready to book a photographer right now.
Yeah.
And then there are the people that are like, oh crap, I have a wedding in September and I haven't booked a photographer yet, but I'm completely slammed for September and October. Like I can't fit in another wedding. So right now I'm getting leads for clients that are like, hey, can you shoot my wedding October 27th in New Jersey? And I'm like, hey, I've been booked since last summer, since before October 27th. Like, you got to get on the ball. So right now there's like a little bit of a lull. So I'm sitting around, I'm going, I think this is just the time of the year where people aren't booking. And it's not me, and it might not be my pricing. It just is where they're just not ready to pull the trigger on you yet. And then I would say March was a crazy month. Everybody was just like, here's like, I want to work with you. Like, let's do it. And maybe it was taxes were coming in. Like, I don't know, but I was getting a lot of bookings then. And I just do like my retainer, and then they don't pay. I even do like payment plans. Like a lot of people are like, I'd rather pay you like divide it over each month and make it like a payment up until my wedding. And I'm fine with that, you know? Yeah. However they want to do it. I'm pretty easygoing when it comes to that kind of stuff.
So how do you, I have a question, like how do you plan your own finances? Like, cause I imagine that like unevenness of leads coming in is just the part of the gig. Like, you know, most people, if they're used to working like a traditional 9-to-5 or a paycheck job, they pretty much know what they're going to make every month. But like, if you're freelancing, like it could vary quite a bit. So like, how do you sort of account for that?
So I guess I learned the hard way this year, because like I paid my taxes and then I like got a new car. It's not a new car. It's like it's a used vehicle that it's just better for me.
New to you.
It's new to me. And then I was like, oh crap, nobody's booking. So I had to like really work my butt off. But I would say I tend to take my, like, for instance, my rent. That's the most important thing to me. So having a roof over your head is number one. So as people book, I would say, all right, so I have to put so much aside for taxes. And I use the app Qaptial. It's with a Q. You know that app? It's Q, I think Aptial. I'll send you a link for it. I think I use the Qaptial, and then the second that money gets like dropped into my business account, it takes 30% of it and puts it in a separate account for taxes.
That's good.
So that's because that you don't want to. It's so annoying, and then you pay quarterly taxes, and then I say, okay, do I have 3 months of rent saved? Right? Because that's the most important thing. And then I book all of my, with the money that they give you. Hi, whoever you are. So basically whatever's left over, essentially, I book the equipment I need if I don't think I'm gonna have it for their wedding. So I'll reserve like an additional camera. And if I know what their venue's like, I'll say, wow, after I do a little bit of research about their venue, I'll look up places and say, oh, I might need a 100 and like a 150 millimeter or 70 to 200. So I might rent that just to cover myself.
Yeah.
For that, I usually do all those expenses. Like for instance, I have Tammy Wen. I always say Nugent, but it's Tammy Wen.
Ted Nugent?
I always say her I'm so silly. I always say her name wrong. She's one of my closest friends.
I didn't know Ted Nugent was into photography.
Tammy Wen, Boston Tam Cam. I'm shooting her sister's destination wedding in the Dominican in August. Yes, it's going to be
awesome.
Like a 3-day party. I'm so ready. But also I have to work. So as soon as she gave me her deposit, I rented a underwater camera holder and like all the other stuff that I need, because I know that she is Tammy's sister is a gorgeous model, number one, and she also is so down to do fun stuff. So I'm like, oh God, I'm so excited. Let's do an underwater shoot, like an underwater engagement shoot, and try to see. I don't know if it's going to come out, because I don't like, I'll try my best. but it's a really good idea. I might go underwater and just be like, okay, this is gonna work, you know? But so I rented what I needed for that. Like the second I get that, and then whatever's left over goes towards like business expenses, like covering Dropbox. Like there's so many of those little tiny things that add up. Your Dropbox and like my gallery cost me $15 a month. I use PicTime. I just switched from Pixieset, which is great. And just little things. If you use Smart Slides, that's like $8 a month. And
yeah.
So those little tiny things add up, and I just make sure I have enough in those accounts to cover that and to pay for myself for things. So over time, yeah, I pay way more out of pocket than I should be, I guess, right now. And that's because I don't have like the capital to purchase like the lenses and the like equipment I need, which I will. I'll kind of get there, you know?
Yeah.
It's my official first year in business, you know? So
yeah, when did you like officially leave Apple? I forgot to ask that.
A year ago.
So it was in June last year?
Literally a year, like a year ago, like probably to the day. Yeah. And I think it was when I went to a like a retreat in the Pacific Northwest, and I was able to like learn a ton of stuff under a few unreal photographers. We went hiking in the in Olympic National Park, and it was so great. We didn't have service. Like we were totally unplugged in the mountains, just like eating the best food ever and like crying over our opportunities.
Photos, yeah.
We were not only that, just like crying over our opportunities. We're like, how can I get better at this? And just being silly. I don't know how else to describe it. It was probably one of the best investments in my entire life that I've ever done. I would not be where I am. I would say going to Alpine Northwest and buying Honeybook are two of the top things. And Photo Mechanic, which we haven't gone over yet. So.
Yeah, we'll cover that. So
Photo Mechanic.
I wanted to ask about your sort of like what kind of gear. Well, let me back up. So what do you do to prepare to shoot a wedding? Like what's your process like before the wedding, like booking the client, and then like the day of the wedding, and then like, you know, what's all the stuff that you need to do to like prepare in terms of gear and having everything that you need so that you know all your bases are covered and everything's going to go smoothly?
So I send a questionnaire out that through Honeybook, and it fills in all the stuff that I need to know. And it's an app, so it's on my phone. But I send a questionnaire out. It's like, where do I park? Are you going to do a first look? Do you understand that I need you to send me the shot list at least a week in advance? Like, so I'm reminding them everything, and I'm asking them for additional phone numbers. Like, who's the emergency contact? What's your mom's number? What's your dad's number? What's your fiance's number? Every single address I might need. So I have a questionnaire that goes through that. And at the end, I'm like, don't like sweat it if you don't have all these answers, you know, this is just to get us all on the same page. So I send that out literally a month before the wedding. I always have, almost always, I would say 90% of the time I meet with them, and we just go to a coffee shop and hang out and just kind of, even if we didn't have like our engagement session together, because a lot of times that's when they first meet me, as our engagement session. The second time is usually I meet with them in a coffee shop, and we kind of go over everything. They tell me, they're like, okay, my future mother-in-law is overbearing. Like, don't let her boss you around. That's like what every bride says. Like, okay. I'm like, all right, so you and every other bride. But I try to coach them throughout the day, and I let them know that, hey, the hardest part of the day is family photos. Like, that 15 minutes is going to be super anxious for, like, anxiety driven for all of us, but everything else is so easy. Like trying to get like Uncle Bill that's getting a cocktail, like to get to family photos. And then we're missing a bridesmaid who had to use the restroom. So honestly, like that, I try to put the bride's mind at ease just by letting them know how their day's going to go, because I've done this like over 50 times already, I would say. And I'm a professional. Like I know how their day's gonna go, and it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. I've never had a day mess up. There's never been anything, even if something went wrong, like a dog, like there was a dog that barked, like, and it was their dog, but it was the coolest part of like the ceremony. It ended up being like the dog barked at like the exact times it needed to bark, you know? So yeah, like there's little things that the brides stress out over that they don't have to. I'm like, guess what? Everything's gonna be awesome. Everything's gonna be cool. The fact that you're gonna have your dress on 5 minutes before your ceremony starts is pretty great. Like so it's cool.
So what do you bring in terms of like gear and any other prep work that you do? Like, do you shoot these by yourself? Do you have another photographer with you?
Yeah. The cool part is that I have like a list of people that like always want to shoot weddings with me. And well, I have I don't choose who I want to shoot with based on, or I want to bring along based on their talent level. Like, I don't care if you just picked up a camera. I mean, it would be great if you know how to shoot in manual. That's kind of like I would say, all right, if you know how to shoot in manual and you have a full frame, we're cool. But I just want good company and somebody that's super positive throughout the day, you know, and just somebody that is professional as well, but knows how to have fun and like enjoy the moments. So like I've been working with Carrie Caitlin Photography. She just kind of started out shooting weddings. She's been my second shooter for just this year, and I just enjoy her company. And she's leveled up. I can't even begin to tell you. We did a styled like portrait shoot last Sunday, and I wanted to cry. She absolutely killed it. And it's kind of nice when you see somebody that's been your second shooter for, you know, a half a year, just like absolutely destroy something. You're like, I've never been more proud of anybody in my entire life. And like, she can't shoot every wedding with me because she also has a job. So Jay Coy's shooting a wedding with me next Friday. And he's like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm like, you're just fun to be around, dude. Like, come on, let's go. He's just a good guy, you know, he's a good guy. And I just want, like, it's always more or less like, if you've been, like, I have like probably 5 or 6 people on my list that I just go down and that I've asked to second shoot for me. And like, if Carrie's not available, I'm like, all right, who wants to shoot? Let's go, come along and have fun. All my weddings are a blast. I leave with like a giant smile on my face and everybody has fun. So for gear, I tend to ask my second shooters to shoot with a different lens than I am, just so we can get a different perspective. And after a few weddings together, for instance, like Carrie knew when not to get in front of my lens. I knew when to get in front of hers. We kind of know where each other is at all times now. And we just kind of have a really good workflow, I would say. And then I usually have 2 full frames on me. I shoot with Canon because, I mean, a lot of people ask me if am I going to switch to Sony or switch to and I just know my camera. I know the Canon camera system so well that I can switch my settings without looking. So, and I don't really think it matters like what high-end camera you have.
Yeah, you're in too deep.
Yeah, like I just know, I know Canon so well. I'm happy with it, and I love the lenses that they offer. Like the 85 1.2 is next level, like the best. I know professional sports photographers that shoot like the Bruins and stuff like that, and they're like, that's the only lens that would make me switch to Canon. The 85 1.2 it's so good. Yeah, it's great. That's, oh my God. If you want to bring a 35, so the new Canon 35 1.2, it's the newer one. It's within the past year. That one and the 85 1.2 for Canon, unreal. Those 2 lenses, you could shoot a whole wedding with it. You shoot a whole wedding with that. The 35, you could shoot a whole wedding with alone. Like you could shoot an entire wedding with just one prime lens. It doesn't, as long as you know that lens and you know where to be. Like my 50, my Sigma 50 that I use for years. And I think Annie Leibovitz does a really good masterclass on that. about how shoot with one lens, because then you'll just know where to be with it. You'll know it so well that you know like your sweet spots for every setting with that one lens. So I've gotten to know the lenses so well that I only shoot with primes. I don't shoot with zoom lenses. I allow my second shooters to shoot with whatever they want. Like, go ahead, switch over, like get creative. Like, I trust you, you know, as long as they're shooting. Sometimes I'm like, get in there, like go take the photos. So, and I bring a flash and I bring flash batteries. I try not to use too much flash, only for like indoors. A lot of wedding photographers have been using video lights, like for receptions, like where they'll use a video light for the reception.
Like those like LED panels or something like that?
Yeah, which is kind of a good idea because it doesn't have to refresh, you know? Like, so it's just constantly lit. You can hold your shutter down and it's good to go. But I do just use a regular flash for most of my stuff. I've tried to use the LED panel, but everybody's like, oh my God, my eyes. I don't know how the other photographers get away with it. I'm like, how do they get away with this? Because everybody hated me when I brought an LED panel. Like, what else do I bring? I bring snacks. I bring tons of snacks. Ibuprofen, Band-Aids for blisters, because that's going to happen. I would say I bring snacks for the groom, because the grooms get hangry and they're not as like, in some of them, I would say 70% of them aren't as invested in the photos as like the brides are. So the grooms are like, oh my God, when is this going to be over? I'm starving. And I'm like, here's a Cliff Bar. Would you like a water? Like, I always have all of that ready to go because they're always hangry. You're bringing them to this beautiful field to shoot in. And they're like miserable. They're like, oh my God, I'm starving. Like, please, can we go? And you're like, I have 15 more minutes with you guys, and you're going to be mad at me if I don't get these photos in like 3 weeks. So you kind of have to force stuff on people and say, all right, we have to do this. So you're going to have to get by with the Cliff Bar I have in my like fanny pack. So
have you ever had any issues with guests like using their like guests, bridesmaids or anything, like using their iPhones or like getting in the way?
Yeah. So I'll talk about iPhones and I'll talk about actual like uncles who bring their like brand new Sony A7R IIIs and master lenses and stuff like that. We'll go through that. That's really fun. So during portrait sessions, I don't allow anybody but myself and the second shooter. I tell my brides and my grooms ahead of time before they even book me. I'm like, listen, I get bossy. But the reason why I get bossy is because I find that this is the best way. This is, if your mom is hanging over my shoulder taking photos while I'm doing your bridal portraits, it's not going to be a good time. So like the moms are always like, can I come for the first look? And I'm like, absolutely not. You are not coming to the first look. That's not happening. Sometimes I'll allow them. I'll do like a dad first look, which is always super sweet. I love doing those. And I'll let the mom come so they can be like, oh my God, this is cute. And I can get her reaction.
Yeah.
But other than that, I usually don't allow that. I prefer to ask my clients to do an unplug ceremony. And if anybody, I will like unapologetically before the ceremony starts, ask the entire crowd to keep their cell phones below their shoulders. Like if they have their cell phones out in the aisle, I will physically go up to them and ask them to put it inside the aisle.
Yeah, that's smart.
Because the brides will, they understand. They understand. I say just during the ceremony, because otherwise I'm going to have the only thing you're going to see in their wedding photos is like every aunt's arm with their cell phones on. Like that's, and it's just not pretty and it's not cute. And I just ask that everybody has, if they are going to use their cell phones, and then they have them like below their shoulders, that they don't use a flash because that could interfere with my lighting on my camera. And I'm usually very nice about it when I ask them. I'm like, hey, can you just not use your flash? Like I can't, like, it'll interfere with my exposure. And then we have like the uncles that bring their they're super A7R3. They're brand new. And I'm like, okay, listen, I embrace them in the best way. A lot of people are like, I hate it. Get them out of my way. And I'd be like, all right, Uncle Timmy, come over here. And I'll say, hey, just don't use your flash. And try to stay behind me. And I'll even like, I'll say, hey, come over here because this is going to be a really good shot. So after I embrace them and I take them in and I say, oh my God, I can't believe you have the new 70-200 like G Master. That's insane. That I like kind of make them feel welcome in our little photography club we have there, you know? And then we start talking about camera gear and kind of geeking out together. And then after a while, they're like, wow, like I'll go, where's your camera? And they're like, no, you know what you're doing. This is great. This is great. So after a while, they tend to warm up to me only because I've been warm to them. And I find that that's been the best way to approach things when I'm trying to do portraits or or, you know, everybody, it's difficult. And a lot of people aren't nice about it. A lot of other wedding photographers are like, please don't use your camera at all, but, and won't talk to them. But I embrace them. I just bring them in, and then finally it's just it turns out to be like a really good relationship, you know? I had a dad that had his camera out for everything. And by the end of the night, like he and I were like boys talking about different IPAs. Like he gave me like boxes of these like Trillium and Treehouse. He gave me boxes of IPAs to like leave with. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I had one good story I wanted to share with you. I was at a wedding. This is probably like 2 years ago. I wasn't there as a photographer. I was in like the groomsmen. I was one of the groomsmen. And the groom's sister, she was a bridesmaid. And I remember when we went out to they had the wedding at this like country club, and we did the photos of like the whole bridal party and groomsmen at like on the golf course. So we ride out in these like carts, and I will never forget the groom's sister kept like coming up to the photographer and being like, can you take one more with my iPhone? And like hands the iPhone to the photographer. And she did it like 3 times. Just like, oh my God. Like this person's standing there, she's got a $5,000 camera, and then it's like, can you just get one with my iPhone? It was just like,
I'm like, I'll look at sister and be like, listen, sister, you're silly as shit, but I'll do this. Like, it's usually it's pretty funny, you know? I don't know. It always ends up working out. So it always ends up working out regardless. And sometimes I have to crop out an arm, you know? Sometimes I'm like, all right, guess what? Like, Auntie's going to lose her arm because her phone is in the way. So I'm not crop out, but like I'll Photoshop out an arm. I don't do a lot of Photoshop, but I do a lot of my photos I edit in Lightroom. But yeah, that's
the wedding experience. Yeah.
That's the wedding experience. The weddings, I have 3 on Friday, Saturday, Sunday this upcoming weekend. I know.
So let's talk about the like the aftermath. Like, so you come home, you've got God knows how many photos. What's your process for going through them and making sure you can like stay on top of the workflow of having thousands of images from multiple weddings? Because it's not like you just, you know, like you said, you got 3 this weekend, and you're gonna on Monday have. I'm not even gonna guess. Yeah.
Pray for me. Pray for me. I'll probably be in bed. Bring me wine and chocolate. You guys. Yeah. So I would say on like after my weddings, it's kind of funny that almost all wedding photographers, like they're probably, if they listen to this, they're gonna laugh, but like a lot of us are like, oh God, we need to go to Wendy's and get a Frosty. Like everybody goes through drive-thrus. I don't know what it is. Like we all like, one of my friend Jess, who is a wedding photographer up in New Hampshire, she's like, this is my McDonald's order for after all of my weddings. I don't know what it is. We just have this thing. But then so for real though, when I get home, I upload and I back up. That's the first thing I do. I would prefer to do it before I leave venues, but typically the Wi-Fi isn't that fast. But I kind of hoard all of them are recorded to dual cards. So in each camera, so 2 SD cards in each camera. Well, 1 compact flash card, 1 SD card, compact flash card, and the other one SD card. And then I upload from the compact flash cards. And then I back up to 1 external hard drive, and then I back up to another external hard drive, and then I usually upload to like Amazon Glacier, just in case. And then when that's done, sometimes I'll poke through while they're uploading. And other times my computer's like, this is a lot of work and I don't want you to do anything else. It depends. But then once I'm done with that, I will typically within 24 hours, I call the photos. And what that means is, say I have 4,000 photos from a wedding day, and including my second photographer's photos, which I usually get that day via, I'll just grab one of their SD cards and then mail it back, or just give it back to them next time I see them, or they'll Dropbox them to me real quick, like the next day. Everything's in RAW, of course. So there's a lot of files. So then I call through the photos. I use Photo Mechanic. It's a lifesaver. When I upload to Photo Mechanic, it allows you to go through the photos and rate them, and it will sync with Lightroom. So you can go through and say, all right, these are all 4s. These are all keepers. My 5s are the highlights. So those are the best photos of the day, and those are the ones that will go on your blog posts. So I would go through and rate them that way. A lot of times I keep way too many photos. So I'll go through the photos, and while I'm using Photo Mechanic, it's very quick. You cannot do it, what I do in Photo Mechanic, or what any photographer that uses Photo Mechanic in Lightroom. Lightroom's too slow. Like I'm talking like the second, like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like how fast I'm doing this is how fast I am in Photo Mechanic. So I'll rate the photos. Sometimes I'll go back and say, okay, which one of these photos where everybody has their eyes open? You know, which one of these photos? I keep everything. I keep a lot of, because some of my photos, you ever go back and you're like, well, I can really fix this. And you're like, damn, why did I keep that? Like, I'm so silly. What's wrong with me?
Am I going to do work on this photo? Come on.
Or like, I love movement in photos. I love movement. So if I have like a photo where like it's kind of out of focus, but like it has like some shining light and like this moving hair, I'll be like, I'll keep it and then be like, what was I thinking? Like, this is silly. So I'll end up having to do a second call. So I'll basically pull all those photos that I called that are the keepers for the wedding, whether it's 5. I honestly always end up sending way more than I should. So like, say I send 600 to 700 photos per wedding, right? I'll be at 900 in my choosing which ones I want, and I'll have such a hard time narrowing it down. And sending 900 photos is too much. Like I can't send it's just too many photos to send to somebody for their wedding day. A lot of people are like, that's a lot, like that's awesome. But no, once you get that gallery, you'll be overwhelmed. So less and better selection is better quality. So photo selection is in of itself a skill. So choosing photos to go in their gallery is very important. So it takes a little bit of time. So I would say overall between the 2 calls, it will take me like an hour and a half total to like go through all of them and then go through them again. And then once I've called, I edit. I'll start going through the 5s, and I'll edit each of the 5s in each lighting situation the way that I want them to be. So they'll be sets. So say we do a shoot inside, like bridal shoot inside, like portraits or whatever, and then we go outside. Those are going to they're going to be 2 different sets, you know, like, so I'll edit each situation and then match them for wherever the lighting is and all that. And then sometimes like say, like for instance, I have 3 weddings. I have 3 weddings this weekend. Sometimes I use a really, really, really amazing thing that not a lot of you are going to know about until I tell you this, but it's a place called the Image Salon. And they're up in Montreal. And what they do is they edit our photos the way that we want them edited. I would say they have an express package, which I think is like either 25 cents per photo, which they use their own approach and they'll deliver it to you within 3 days. And you don't really have a say in what goes in that. But if you need to like get an event done, if you have like 400 photos for an event and they needed it yesterday, send them to the Image Salon. Okay.
Yeah.
And then like I have 3 weddings coming up. I will literally live in my house for the rest of the summer trying to edit these photos. So what I'll do is I'll edit 1 per lighting situation, the way that I want them to be. And then I'll upload the entire Lightroom catalog to the Image Salon, and it's 50 cents a photo for high end. So say I send them 800 photos, it'll be $400 for them to finish the entire gallery for me in 5 to 10 business days. So insane. It's insane. And they will FaceTime you. Like I can talk to them just like I'm talking to you. And they'll say, hey, Erin, like I can see the screen and they'll say, what do you think about all of these? Like, can you give us feedback? They are so good at what they do. I cannot begin to tell you. If you have a backlog of photos that you need to get done, send them to them. Yeah. They're literally incredible. They'll use your presets. I can't say enough good things about them. Sometimes I like to, save money and not have to outsource my edits. And if I have time, I'll do it. Like I have a couple weddings that I'm working on myself so that I don't have to pay out the money to do it. And there are also weddings that weren't as like, I didn't charge as much on because it was me booking my first bookings like last year. So I can't afford to send them to the Image Salon, but in the future, I may send more of my work out. And it is my work. Like they are editing for me, but they're editing in my style for me, which is absolutely incredible. So I can actually give you I'll give you the link to them, Dan, and then you can link them in it. You can sign up for them and then use your own like referral link to them. They're really, really great. They have a team of 70 editors. And that's all they do. And they're just like us. They like hang out and they're pretty freaking amazing. I don't know how else to describe it, but yeah. So if you ever want your life back, being a professional photographer, outsource your editing. Yeah. That's your lesson for the day, folks.
Yeah. It's smart. I mean, because like if you're going to come home and have, if you're expecting you have to deliver, 1,200 photos from the weekend and you have to cull through, I don't know, 20,000 or whatever you happen to shoot over the course of 3 weddings, you've got to be able to outsource some of your tasks. So what are some other things that you either like automate somehow? I mean, I know you're using like Honeybook to automate some of the like reminders and stuff. Like, are there some other things that you do to sort of make things easier on yourself? Like, so you're not doing like literally everything yourself?
Not yet. That is a very, very, very good question though. I have, I tend to get a lot of leads for the same dates. And there are a lot of clients that love my work. And a lot of times I'm really sitting here thinking, wow, like if they love my work, a lot of it is the colors I choose when I edit, and the feel, and I edit through emotions. I don't edit a lot through, it's how the image and the colors make me feel in the moment and how I feel it's going to make somebody else feel, So, if I have a client messaging me and they're like, wow, I really just want your style, I will try to outsource that to another photographer that might have my style. But I've been really thinking about kind of creating like an associate photographer program where I would hire 2 people to shoot the wedding and then they give me the raws, right? And then I color correct them, right? And then send them off to my editors, and then everybody's happy. And then the associate photographers get to keep the photos and or the edited images too, you know? So I was thinking about doing that. A lot of companies do that. And I kind of have an idea to just kind of make it a little better. But that would require more capital and a business plan, which I don't have time to write this summer because I have so many weddings. But I've been thinking about doing like hiring associates to shoot weddings, because if somebody shoots in RAW and they know how to shoot and they know that they just really got to make sure that they have their shutter going during those special moments, then you can shoot weddings. So it's not complete rocket science. It's just like you're gonna sweat and you're gonna work. But like I definitely my hair is in like shambles after my shoots. Like it's like a pro. Like I'm like a sweaty mess. Like it's really bad. So
yeah. So what's your typical, like, how do you set your clients' expectations for turnaround time? I feel like with Instagram and everything, like people want their photos like almost immediately. Like I did a graduation shoot, like, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago. And the girl I was shooting for is like, the same day was like, can you send me like just a few of them like tonight so I can make an like, because they just want to post them on Instagram. That was like that was the whole point. Like I don't even think she even looked at any of the edited photos I sent her afterwards, because like she just needed the few for that Instagram post. So like, how do you set your like clients' expectations? Because I mean, you can't come home that night and edit an entire set, or I mean, like what do you how do you like handle that?
So it depends. So if I actually had a lot of that recently, especially for graduation photos. I would go home and then pick, like, I wouldn't even have time to call because it takes time. And I would pick like a couple that just are fine. And I would send them to them and say, hey, like, are these colors and tones okay? Sometimes I don't do that. I just kind of, it's in my contract because everybody signs a contract with me now. You have to do it. I will, you have to do the contract. So I asked, especially if it's my friend, like I shot Tammy's Boston Tam Cam's not engagement, her graduation photos a few weeks ago. And I sent her like, hey, what do you think of these tones and these colors, da, 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 da. And she's also a photographer, so her feedback to me matters. Like I care what Tammy thinks about the photos I took of her a lot. And I know that if she does give me feedback, that it's because she cares, you know? So I asked her and she's like, oh my God, I love them, da! And like post them on Instagram immediately, you know? So everybody wants their photos done immediately. So I tell everybody like 2 weeks for portraits. 2 weeks is like, don't say, hey, do you have a couple more for me? Like a couple days later, because that happens to me all of the time. Where people are like, hey, can you like go through and each of my projects are in a completely separate Lightroom catalog. So when I'm mid-wedding, like during the day, and then somebody texts me, hey, can you go back to this photo and like maybe pull one of the ones of this and that of me doing this? And I'm like, yo, I'm mid-wedding catalog right now. Like, this is not the time. Like, I'm in the zone. You're like, I didn't plan for you to, I see my internet going crazy in the back there in the bottom corner. That's funny. So I didn't plan to like have those like things thrown at me like midday to edit. Because once I'm in the zone, it's hard to stop, go into another completely different Lightroom catalog, try to find the photo that they're looking for. And that's a half hour to an hour of work in and of itself, is like looking for all that. And I think that people think we can just come up with things like, oh, hey, just like it's on your phone, you can just send it over. No, it's not. It's like deep in my computer somewhere and I have to find it. So it's tough to set those expectations. So I tell them straight out like, hey, I'm like mid-wedding catalog and it's just just not the right time right now. So 2 weeks for portraits, 2 weeks for engagement photos, and 3 to 4 weeks for weddings is my normal. Because say it takes 5 to 10 business days to get photos back from the image salon. But say I need an extra couple days to catch up on edits for my engagement shoots, my portraits, and I have to call. So once I'm done calling, it might be a week and a half before I get those wedding edits out to image salon.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to make a list every day and just check off the list. Like, okay, did I call this session? Did I start editing this session? Did I put like did I send this gallery out, you know, and then deal with the in-between emails and the text messages you get from your friends that are like, hey, can you send me these photos you took of me last week?
Yeah.
It's crazy. You're like, what do you want? I'm working. But again, that's the part where everybody thinks it's glamorous. Like, I literally just showered for the first time since like Friday night, like today.
Yeah.
Because I've been working all weekend. Like I've been in the house working essentially. But this was I had a shoot on Saturday.
It's Monday for the folks listening. It is Monday.
It is Monday. Yeah. Like I'm crazy. But like our life is like living in pajamas and like choosing to sit in front of our computer all day and doing work. It's not easy. I would sometimes rather be in a workplace. Like sometimes I will pack my bag up and go over to the Hoobie office where my buddy Jordan and Sam work, Sam Swan. They actually have a really cool app that's coming out. It's for like creatives and entrepreneurs, like, and what inspires them on the daily. So be on the lookout for that. So that's going to be really cool. But sometimes I go into their office and just try to like zone out and not be stuck in the house all day, or cafes, and try to work from there. But if I work from home, I like working from home because I have food here, you know?
Yeah.
Like if I go to a cafe, I'm going to spend $15 on like a sandwich and a coffee. And I could have spent it on Pixie Set for the month, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like really about it. So client expectations, sometimes it's hard. Like I had a client today actually that messaged me. I sent their wedding out to them like, I think a couple weeks ago. And I sent them like way more photos than I normally would. I just always do. And they're like, hey, like we don't have a photo of like a certain aunt at the reception. But like, and they were asking for me to find that photo. So they don't know if that photo exists and I don't know if it exists. So they just don't have a photo of a certain aunt at the reception. And it wasn't on a shot list. So they didn't say, make sure you get a photo of our aunt at the reception. And if it's not on a shot list, I'm not responsible for it, you know? So I'm like, okay, so I have to pull the photos from Amazon Glacier, right? Which costs $10. Okay. Wait for them to get to me, which takes forever. That's why it's called Amazon Glacier. And then I have to call through another 3,000 to 4,000 photos to find one picture of an aunt. And I had to figure out a way to tell them that wasn't going to happen.
You should have just been like, can you just send me like a headshot of her and then just photoshopped her head onto somebody else's body? Like,
I'm like, all right, so listen, this is not.
Here's Aunt Mildred.
Yes. Like, guess what, you guys? Like, I want to make my clients happy, but I also need them to understand. Like, I'm like, hey, like, I wanted to tell them never in like the over 50 weddings that I've shot, probably closer to 100, has anybody ever asked me for like one photo, like a few weeks later, and like they messaged me about it and I was like, yeah, I'll see what I can do. And like, then they messaged me the next day, like, hey, did you find that photo? I'm like, what? Like, that's like moving a mountain in like a day, you know? It's going to take me, I have to physically look for somebody in these photos. So it's not like a normal call. It's not like, okay, is this photo in focus? Is this the best photo where everybody's looking? I'm looking for a physical person in it.
Yeah.
So it would have taken
a haystack.
Yes, it would have taken me a couple hours, and I'm like, all right, you guys, like, and I don't think they loved my answer. But sometimes you just have to put your foot down and like let them know, like, hey, like I'm really busy. I have 3 weddings this weekend, and like, if it was a good photo of your aunt, you probably would have gotten it because I did send you an extra like 300 photos, you know.
Yeah.
So, but if I do find a photo of your aunt, it's probably not a good one, you know. So, like, don't be surprised.
Real talk.
Don't expect it in like a day. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like I did. They're like, hey, like we wanted to follow up on our message from yesterday, and I'm like, hey, like this is what it's gonna take for me to get those photos. So, and I don't mind doing it. Like I don't. It's just that it's just not gonna be this week or next week. You know, like being on this interview with you today is kind of like fun for me. It's social. I haven't left the house. So kind of my social hour, which is why I'm probably talking a lot. But I don't socialize too much anymore because I'm constantly working and really trying to find like a balance between like work-life balance and just being a professional photographer now and just getting it done and fine-tuning things. Like, oh my God, if I didn't find the image salon, I would have lost my mind.
Yeah.
Like,
so I had another question too, in terms of like your packages. Like now you've talked a lot about like sending the images to the clients. Do you do prints or albums or anything like that too?
Yeah. So I used to use PixieSat for like gallery delivery where people could order through Pro DPI, which is like a professional print lab. They're really great. Their colors are awesome. And every time I've ordered from them, the prints were insanely incredible. I recently moved over to PicTime because there were more options for clients. So I moved over to PicTime and they can choose, and it's cheaper. It's way cheaper. They can choose, you can get any different print. Like think of a print, you think of an album, you think of a calendar, anything. If it's a graduation photo, there are packages of graduation cards you can send out, holiday cards, everything. It's like Shutterfly on steroids. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's for professional photos. So if you order through Shutterfly and then you order through my site, you're going to see a completely different product. It's probably like 10 to 20% more expensive, but it's a professional photo. It's not it's not something through Shutterfly that you're gonna it's not something that's gonna rip or, you know, decolor, like, or fade over time. They're really, really good. A lot of the pro photo labs have been in business for years. We're talking like 80 years. They're very good at what they do. They ship within 24 hours. So they're pretty great. So I use that. So every time I send a gallery out, they can download all of the high res without watermarks because I hate watermarks. They can download, like they download it and they want to put it on a billboard. That's how good the quality is of the photo. And then they can order prints however they want. They can send it to their parents to order prints however they want. Or if they just want to download the whole album and then order prints wherever else they want, they can do that. They're not required or obligated to order through me, but their photos will be better, like printed, if they do. And I don't think I set my pricing up to get like a very small margin of the prints. I want them to be able to afford it, and like they've already paid me for wedding photography, so it's just my time and making sure the color in the crop is right for this, because I make sure that before it goes out to the print lab that I relook at the images and make sure that they're ready for print. So I'll go, okay, they chose these 5 images, and I'll take the time to go back in. And I just upcharge to cover my time for that. And I think I upcharge like literally 10%, which is pennies. So we're talking like 80 cents a photo. You know, we're not talking about like $8 to $10 a photo. Like Pixie Time was so expensive. It was like 18 for like an 8x10. And PicTime is literally like $5 to $6 for an 8x10 now.
Yeah.
So you can order Christmas presents for everybody for like under $100.
Yeah. So you're just your business model. You're not building the prints in as like a profit thing. It's just like a nice to have for the folks who want to have it.
Yeah. And I mean, there is, I have an album designer that like, I have this girl that I met at a coffee shop. It was really cool. And I saw her building an album, like a wedding album. I was like, what are you, like, how are you doing this? You're really good at this. And she's like, that's what I do. I'm a flight attendant and I also like style wedding albums. So like, it was really cool that I met her at a coffee shop, right? So I was like, wow, that's something that I would love to do. So I built in as like an a la carte item is to have like somebody professionally design the wedding album, and it would be her. So I would just say, okay, like which albums would you want? Would you like 2 duplicate parent albums or like 1 regular album, like 20 to 40 pages? Usually it's 20 pages because 40 pages is a lot. And then she'll design it and then send it back to me, and then I send it to the lab. So it's pretty cool. And then they can choose after. If they in the beginning, if they don't want to do the album design, they can say, I want to build an album now. And then they choose it in pick time. And then I can help them build it on my end if they want. So I can say, all right, so we can, like, if you want that one in black and white, like, I'll just change it right now, you know? And that's the cool part about pick time too, is that it syncs with Lightroom. So they can highlight, they can take like 10 photos that they like want in black and white instead of necessarily like color. They'll be like, hey, can you throw these in color or throw these in black and white? And when they choose them, I get like a little notification on my end. And then I open it back up in Lightroom and it has a folder of those 10 photos, right? That I need to throw in black and white, and it's next level customer service. You're like, sweet, I got it. And then I duplicate the photos, throw them in black and white, and then I'll add them to that gallery. And then they'll have all those photos in black and white as well. So that's another reason why I really like to use PicTime. I just switched over to them and I'm pretty impressed. They had a little mishap this past weekend where their server was down and I couldn't log in. Like, I think they use like Microsoft for a server, and they were like, we're so sorry. I'm like, all right, it's fine. Like, they're like, thank you for being so nice to us. I'm like, but I get it. Like, people, like, shit happens. So if your server's down, your server's down. As long as you didn't like lose all my client galleries, we're fine. You know, like I get it. You know, I'm not gonna like ream them out and ask for money back because their server was down for like a couple hours. You know. Yeah. It probably wasn't even their fault. And it probably had to do with a lot of other people too, you know? Yeah. So, but yeah.
That's cool. So I just had a couple more questions and then we could probably wrap up here in a minute. So I have a random question. This is not totally, well, this really isn't related to photography.
That's fine.
What do you think of the International House of Pancakes changing their name to IHOB?
All right, listen, if they were smart. So is it International House of Breakfast now? Is that what it's supposed to be?
Burgers.
Burgers, dumb.
Yeah.
It should be
You're coming into a crowded space.
It should literally be, hold on one second. Let me see. My neighbor's supposed to come down. My neighbor's supposed to come down so I can take portraits of him and his dog. So I have to like see if he was messaging me. Okay. So I honestly believe if they were smart, they would make it the International House of Brunch and serve bottomless mimosas, and people would be lining up at the door.
Yeah.
It's just not the same. I'm sorry. If I want to go to IHOP, like, I'm going there to get my like stack of chocolate chip pancakes at like 2 a.m. Yeah. But if they have 24-hour, like if I get there at like in the morning at like 11 on a Sunday with a group of my girlfriends, and I will literally live at IHOB if it was International House of Brunch. Like, they just need to get it right. Like, that's
they fucked up.
They fucked up so bad. Yeah.
I think I saw I can't remember if it was the Wendy's Twitter account. They were like, someone tweeted at them about the IHOB, and they were like, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about the guys who couldn't even make pancakes. I couldn't just make pancakes.
I don't even think I'm gonna go there anymore now. Like I haven't. I would say I end up there like once every like 2 years randomly, like with friends. It'd be like, let's not go to Wendy's and get a Frosty at like 1 a.m. Like let's go to IHOP and just destroy some pancakes and like eggs or whatever, you know. But I don't think I'll ever go. Like,
those times are gone.
Those times are gone. Like they ruined it. Like what? Who decided that? I want to know.
Yeah.
Like somebody who thought that was a good idea.
Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, that was just a total curveball. I was just like, what? Like, what? It just makes no sense, but
oh my God.
Funny. All right. So I got one more question before we can we wrap up. So what advice would you give to someone who's maybe like considering going into wedding photography? Maybe they're working a job right now, or they're maybe considering a career change, and they're either maybe booking clients on the side, or they're just getting started, or don't know where to get started. Like, what's some advice you would give to someone who maybe has aspirations to go full-time with their photography?
I would say hustle, and also connect with other photographers. Like you have to second shoot. Try to second shoot for like a company. There are a few companies out there like George Street and Classic, where you can get a ton of weddings under your belt. You can say, like, it's not a lot of pay and it's not the best. I'll keep the other comments to myself regarding it. But but you can get a ton of wedding experience, just like second shooting for other photographers and just being at weddings and like the flow of a wedding day. That's how I got started. I just started second shooting for like those wedding companies. And now I'm trying to rip the Band-Aid off a little bit, because I would say like maybe 30% of my weddings are still like, I still have to work those weddings that I booked last year through them, because I'm a first shooter for them now. But I had to block off all of my dates, because I'm the most booked photographer on their website. So what happens is I get booked Friday, Saturday, Sunday for them, right? Yeah. And then I'm not doing my own style weddings. You know, I'm not doing the type of weddings that I want to do, like the boho-y type weddings that, like, you know, give me my feels. So I have to make sure that I block off those dates. Like for 2019, I went through and I blocked up every Saturday for them. And I still have people being tricky. I'm like, oh, they got me more Memorial Day weekend for a Sunday, you know, or they got me on like Columbus Day weekend on a Sunday, you know, that's like a Saturday where I didn't block off that one day. So I have to go through and block off every Saturday. Otherwise I'll book every Saturday. And it's in the system. They go through and they choose you, and then that's it. Yeah. So you're in. You have to do it. So I have to block off all those dates in order to allow my brides that are like watching me on Instagram and just waiting until the time comes for them to try to book me, so that they have the opportunity like to book me, or that I have the opportunity to work with them. That people that have like loved my style over the course of the year, and we may be a better match than my like wedding company clients. So that's been a struggle for me, is kind of balancing that, because I know I can book every weekend through them, but I also know that it's going to be a lot of work and it's not going to be enough money for me, and it's not going to be my style. So it's just not the route that I want to go. But that is a very, very, very good way to get a ton of wedding experience. So if somebody calls you and says, how many weddings have you shot? You can just be like, I just shot 25 weddings in the past 3 months, you know? And they're like, wow, you must know how to shoot a wedding. And you do. Like after the first one, like you're super nervous. Like, what do I do? Am I doing everything okay? Yeah, you are. And then 10 in, you're like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. I know where I need to be. And then like 50 weddings deep, you're like, okay, wow. Like I'm a professional now, and like I am not necessarily just the wedding photographer for this bride, but I'm a psychiatrist as well. So like, because they're like, oh my God, what do I do? Is my hair okay? And you're like, everything's fine. Like your wedding, like I know this is your first time, but this is not my first time, and like everything's okay.
Yeah.
You know. So I would say try to sign up for the wedding. Try to sign up for to be a second shooter. Try not to, this is what try not to do. Try not to shoot your friends' weddings for cheap.
Right.
Because one, they might be pissed at what they get. And two, you might ruin their day, you know? So like that happens a lot where they're like, oh, I'm shooting my second wedding and it's like my friend's wedding. And I'm like, oh crap. Like, are you sure? Like, and I'm like, you probably should have like referred them to one of your wedding photographer friends, like me, maybe. Like, I don't know. Like, that's
for instance, me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, they're like, oh, well, they didn't have like that type of money. I know, but there are wedding photographers out there that are like in college and they're really good. And it might be like $1,200 to book them, you know? And they're on their like 15th wedding, and your wedding might be like 75 people, and that's perfect for them, you know. And it might be just a 4-hour wedding, and that would be perfect for them. But a lot of times it's like, okay, you're gonna shoot your friend's wedding, like just try not to do that. Try to get your tons of second shooting ins with other wedding photographers, and just learn from them and just try to get as many weddings under your belt as you possibly can, and portrait shoots and engagement shoots. Engagement shoots are my favorite. So portrait shoots, I still do portraits. Like I did a styled shoot. It was almost like a commercial shoot a couple Sundays ago. And it was just one of the best days, Dan. Oh my God, I wish you were there. Cause I know you love to shoot portraits and stuff too. We had a professional stylist. We had hair and makeup, Glamour Cosmetics official. She's incredible. She's the best at like hair and makeup in Boston. She's on Instagram. And then her like really close friend that is a professional stylist killed it. Like they came to the beach with this like resort wear and this beautiful Maggie Inc. model who destroyed it. And we had the best day. We shot from like probably 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. last Sunday. And I can't wait to share these images. It's like Jackie Kennedy meets like today. They're so pretty and I can't wait. It's going to take probably about 2 weeks for me to share those images because I think we're going to try to get them published, but we'll see. We never know how it goes. But yeah,
they're always crazy.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, I think that's probably all the questions I have. So just wanted to thank you for coming on to the podcast and getting the reboot here for the Portrait Fam. If people want to connect, if any of the listeners want to connect with you, where are some of the best places that they can get in touch?
So probably my Instagram, at Erin of Boston. My Twitter is mostly me complaining about Boston sports. And just
Celtics, yeah.
I'm like, I know, but like a lot of people don't know that about me. It's kind of funny. They're like, wait, you like know a lot about sports? I'm like, yeah, it's my background. But it's weird because my Instagram is a completely different animal than my Twitter. So I would say Instagram if you're into photography. I have a website. It's still a work in progress. It's hard to build your own website and like continue to work every day, you know?
Yeah.
So that's about it. It's just my Instagram. I respond to most DMs like that I can, as long as they're not like super weird or you know, like, hey, like, have you gotten the one that's like trying to sell hair?
No, that's crazy.
real human hair for sale. I'm like, decline.
Oh, yeah. Block.
God, yeah, but I answer like a lot of DMs as long as they're not weird, and yeah, go from there. So
very cool.
Let's hang out soon, Dan. I haven't seen you. Like, you got to come shoot with me sometime.
Yes, let's do it.
Come like be one of my second shooters. Like, we'll have a blast. It's so much fun. We just like eat
I really actually need to do that because I'm shooting a wedding in August and I need to like get some time under my belt.
Oh, I have plenty. I have plenty of weddings for you to shoot with me. So awesome. Right. But yeah, let me know if you need anything from me, and like DM me, text me, whatever you need.
Sounds good. So I hope you all enjoyed this interview. If you're interested in booking Erin for a wedding, I've linked up all of her contact info in the description, or if you just want to reach out and say hi or ask her a question. We'll see you soon, folks. This has been another episode of Dan Bullman Photography. Peace.